All right, Walt. See all of these lovely plants we have on the table here.
Yes.
So how do we go about picking a good plant?
Well,
Because you know folks are anxious to get out there and start picking these plants so they can get them in their garden. So let's help them out.
okay, well, let's think of it in terms of the Clint Eastwood movie, the good, the bad, and the
Okay.
ugly. Okay? Well, first of all, you want to go to, I guess, a nursery or whatever, whether it be a store or whatever. And what you want to do is just kind of slightly pull up. Now, and what you want to see is basically these white roots here. That's what you want to see. That means this plant is healthy. It's they're ready to go. You can go set them out. And I mean, that's just a pretty good looking set of tomato plants there.
Yeah, that looks
I
good.
mean, I would be happy to put that in my garden. And I mean, now, be careful. Don't just go all over the place doing it, because I'm sure the owner of the nursery would be like, hey, at some point, he's going to want you to, not do that.
Oh, we could just tell them Walt said you could do that. It'll be all right.
Hey, don't put it on me. But also, as you can also see, as in the case here with this vinca, here's a real pretty set. But then, whoa, look at there. We have this anthracnose is just eating this up. I would probably got some type of disease, obviously sitting here, rhizoctonia, something like that. Charcoal rot is probably in there. And this obviously you just wouldn't want that. That's just where it's been over there in the nursery, just probably getting too much water. I don't want to talk about anybody's watering techniques, but that could very well be a problem. Here's another one with this sedum.
Yeah, it looks bad.
Here's the good, here's the bad.
That might be ugly, Walt. That's pretty bad.
This is pretty bad, isn't it? And as you can see, look at the brown roots. And this thing is just soaked. I mean, I don't want to mess up the table here, but you can squeeze water.
Yeah.
Look at that. I mean, look at that moisture. I mean, it's just overwatered, and it's just set over there in the corner somewhere. So you just wouldn't want to buy that one. Now, let's also look at something else that you might see.
Okay.
You'll see just average old, Now, here's this rosemary here. It's nice, but
Smells
I'm sure.
good.
Yeah, I'm sure it's. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that.
Look at those roots. I mean, just root bound. I mean, just a horrible example of it. I mean, a great example of root bound, I should say.
Now, before we go further, so
yes.
what does the homeowner need to do about that when it's root bound? Can they just cut it?
Yes. You would just get this and just pull it apart.
Okay.
Now, some people take a little knife and score it, as they call, but that's what you would do with that. Now, obviously, here's a pretty rosemary, and I'm just a rosemary freak to start with, so I use it a lot. Right. So this is just a great plant. So this is what you would want to buy and spend your money on. Now, speaking of, we was talking about the root bound. Look here at the bottom. Pick those plants up and make sure that you don't get a lot of them with the roots like that. Hanging out coming out of the pot. Now, obviously, we can just cut those off and still plant, but if you can get something different, you will want to do so. Now, I also have an example here. This one's probably lacked a lot of nitrogen and water. Just feel that, Joanne, that's pretty light, isn't it? Hasn't been watered probably in days. So you wouldn't want that, and definitely when you're going to plant, we're going to put some fertilizer with this anyway. Okay. Another one here that I have, tomato plant. Look at this purplish look. Probably phosphorus deficiency easily. So when you would plant this, definitely put some 6-12-12, something like that, in the hole with this plant.
That's that's pretty distinct.
Yeah, that's pretty distinct there.
Phosphorus deficiency.
I mean, and I know Joanne wouldn't put that in her community garden.
I don't think
at all. No way. Now, let's see what else we have here. There's plenty of examples of good and bad. Here we have some, what's that, verbena?
Verbena, yeah.
And look, that's obviously, you wouldn't want to buy that one. But, hey, you wouldn't mind buying this one right here. You see, that's a nice, healthy plant. You want to take that home and plant it and have the yard, the best looking yard on the street. So that's a good one as well. I also have some pepper plants here. And they're pretty good. These were taken care of. Look at that, good healthy plant. And I just love planting in these pots here.
Yeah.
They're just, they're just going to rot into the soil. Good earth-friendly way to plant. So that's got quite a bit covered right there with those.
Now let's quickly talk about our bargain rack. What do you have here on the bargain rack?
Oh, some strawberries.
Oh, man.
Now, again, is that pretty light, Joanne, right there?
Yes.
That's light. Hadn't been watered. This was on the bargain rack the other day.
Oh, my goodness.
And just look at that. It's just dry and crumbly. I mean, just all this old dead material. These were some strawberries. Always remember, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Now, there are those who are trained that can take these kind of plants and bring them back to life again. We can be Dr. Frankenstein and bring it back to life again. And those are what we call master gardeners.
All right.
We learn those skills. And also the people who go through Joanne's program, the community garden. So they learn all that.
So they can get that, resuscitate it, huh?
Oh, yes, but be careful of that bargain rack.
Sure.
And a lot of times, too, let me get that back up here. It's a reason it's a bargain. The bloom period is past it.
Right.
And like I said, they're just trying to just get it out of there.
Right.
Is all they're basically trying to do. But I'm going to plant these. I'm going to have those.
Yeah, you're going to have to let us know, too. If it
Yes.
works out for you.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Now, look, while we have a little time left, we definitely want to talk about watering.
Okay,
So let's talk about watering regimes and whatever else we need to cover.
Anytime you plant, you always start out, obviously, I like to put fertilizer down with it, and then also you want to water.
Okay.
Now, here's the key. A lot of plants, they don't like wet feet. They like moist feet. Just kind of, you just want to keep the soil moist, not just soaking wet. And once established, as well, your vegetable crops, they like to have about an inch to an inch and a half, 2 inches of water every week. So that because think about a vegetable is like 70% water to start with. So, and that'll keep that plant growing, putting on blooms, getting your pollinators in there, taking care of business, and hey, next thing you know, it's tomato time.
Time to get it.
Let's get it on the hamburger.
And I tell you what, if you have your vegetables in container gardens or ornamental plants in container gardens, they're going to have to be watered maybe a couple of times during the summer.
Oh, absolutely.
It gets pretty hot here.
Absolutely.
In the summertime, so you might need to water those, what you think, twice a day?
Oh, definitely, definitely. But the main thing is we want to water in the morning.
Okay.
We do not want to water at night because remember that disease triangle, you have to have a pathogen, you got to have the right environmental conditions, that's what you got to have, and then a susceptible host.
Right.
And so, look, most fungus diseases, they like it dog and moist and humid. So it's nothing you can do about that, but you can control that moisture.
Okay.
It's going to get dog, so, you're going to have that humidity, but at least you can keep that water from getting on it until about 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning.
All right. Doesn't want to keep the water off the foliage at night.
That's right. That's right.
All right, Walt, we appreciate that information.
Yes, sir.
All right.